Hey, my name is Amy J. For those of you who don't know me, that's actually probably the least important thing. I hope you guys had an amazing day. It was beautiful here in Maryland. However, I couldn't enjoy it. It was beautiful over the weekend, and I couldn't enjoy it. And I wanted to come on here to talk a little bit about why I couldn't enjoy it. As a Asian, as a South Asian, as an Indian, you would think, hey, this shouldn't affect you. You're not black, but it does. And I think we need to talk about something because it's Pride Month. And this is something that I wanted to talk about today because tomorrow's elections here in the Maryland, at least, and it's important that people go out to vote. And a lot of you will be watching this on the replay. So, wanted to share my thoughts because it's important. It's important. One of the reasons I was so devastated in 2016 by the elections and the results that happened was that I saw it as a win for hate. Hate won when Donald Trump won the presidency. And I said it, and I say it publicly. But it's something that's grown over the years. It's become more apparent. It's not that it was never there. It's just been more apparent and more publicized because of social media, because of the strength of it, right? And so we've been seeing this growth of hate, and it's hard. It's hard to see because the news reports on these events. And lately in 2020, you would think that there would be less of this, but we're actually seeing it more because of the advent of iPhones and whatnot. And so the thing about it is, in the first 6 months, 5 months, complete months of 2020, we've already had 3 publicized deaths of Black lives at the hands of police. And it's devastating to hear. And these are the only things that are being reported. This is what we're seeing, right? The lives of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery. Devastating to read, devastating to see. And a lot of people are shocked. But we did this, guys. We did this in 2015. We went through this in 2015. We go through this every year in different numbers, and people are shocked and appalled and disgusted by what's happening. But, the straw has to break, is going to break the camel's back. And I think that's what's happening in 2020, at least I hope. But you're seeing it so much now that your heart is heavy to see it. And even while I'm Indian and I do face my own sense of racism, it's not the same. It's not the same to any degree to what African Americans go through. And so I want to talk to my South Asians, to my Indians in particular, because I think a lot of us think that this isn't something we need to get involved in. It won't affect us. And, I think that's the opposite of what we need to do. We have to get involved. When you see something going wrong, you have to get involved. You have to speak out. And that's the main reason why I'm speaking out now is I see it. I have to speak about it. And, it's amazing to me to see the responses. I got to have a lot of good people on my timelines because y'all have some sense in your head and I'm not seeing crazy stuff. But I have friends who are talking about people on their timelines who are talking about all lives matter. It's irrelevant. I'm not saying all lives don't matter. So when you hear the response and refrain, Black Lives Matter, there are a group of people that say, yeah, well, all lives matter. And okay, we're not saying that all lives don't matter, but right now the focus is on the fact that Black lives matter because there is no understanding of that. There is no knowledge or acknowledgement happening in society about the difficulties and the struggles that Black people are going through. And so we have to say Black Lives Matter and call out that focus and not the fact that all lives matter. Yes, they do, right? I mean, it's like when people say, there is cancer is bad. Yes, well, so is diabetes. 2 things can be true, right? Both are bad, both are true facts. but the focus on a given month is for a certain thing. And so we're focusing on the fact that Black Lives Matter. Bringing up the fact that all lives matter isn't irrelevant. It's just not pertinent to what we're talking about right now. And so we have to understand that. And we have to understand that because we think this isn't our issue as Indians. We think that this isn't our place to get involved. And so I have to tell you, that's not the case. I mean, we have to be not just against racism, we have to be anti-racist. We have to be against it. We have to stand up to it because it's hate. That's what we're seeing. And we have to stand up to hate in all the forms it comes in, because when you think it doesn't affect you, because if you think, hey, it's happening to that Black person, it's happening to that other person, therefore it won't affect me, you have the wrong mentality. Because in reality, we are all human beings. We are all of one race, the human race. And that is the thing that I need you all to understand, because if the COVID-19 coronavirus issue pandemic hasn't taught you anything, the mindset you need to have is we all affect and relate and connect to one another. What happens to one person can affect someone else, maybe not the same day, but down the road. And that's what's happening. I mean, we have to understand and love our fellow human being. And a lot of the people who are guilty, who feel defensive about things and say, hey, I'm not racist, I have Black friends, or I'm not racist, I have Indian friends. Those are the ones you'll be like, hold up, that's not at all the way it works. It's not. You may not be covert or I'm not the best at speaking about this, but it doesn't have to be. There are implied and implicit biases that we hold because of how we are raised by our parents, by our culture, all of this. And so need you guys to understand that that is something that is within us. We may not know it, we may not realize it until something happens. And so, understanding that we are not perfect and that we learn these things over time is what we have to be open and honest about. Because if you aren't honest and open about that, then you're never going to realize that you are flawed. And because we are flawed, we can pick up these behaviors, these biases, and we have to understand and learn that. And Christians, my fellow Indian Christians, and I know you guys are like, you're a Christian, you're Indian. They're Christian Indians. So to my fellow Christians, regardless of race, we have to understand, we have to love everyone. We have to love our neighbor, right? John 13 says, and now I give you a new commandment. Love one another as I have loved you, so you must love one another. John 13:34 and 35. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples if you love one another. And so he doesn't give qualifiers on who we love. He doesn't give qualifiers on who we treat as our neighbor. That's the thing we have to understand. That's the thing we have to embrace. Everyone is our neighbor, regardless of their race, gender, creed, religion, all of that. Everyone is our neighbor. We have to love one another. And, right now the system is broke. The system is broke. It's slanted against African Americans, and we have to realize and recognize that. And, as an Indian, I'm not safe or anything. Let me bring back a reminder to you guys about 2015. Suresh Bhai Patel was attacked. He was injured. He was brutalized and hospitalized by police. It can happen to anyone, right? I mean, when Trump got into the office, the fight against Muslims and the anti-Muslim message that was coming out against them was huge. And what, we think because we're immigrants that we're not susceptible to that? We are. And that's the thing you have to understand. The pandemic started, and then suddenly now there's a anti-China, anti-Chinese movement. And it could happen to anybody. And the point is that those people who fall that way, those people who turn and have that mindset, that's learned behavior. That's learned behavior because of flaws that we have. And we have to fight that. We have to acknowledge that we could be that and fight it. The Sikh community, over and over again, Steve, you hit the nail on the head. This happens all the time. And so we need to understand and recognize that that is something that is happening right now and something that we have to fight. And the reason mostly that I want to talk about this, one, because my heart was heavy, is that I'm seeing a lot of people who are more livid about property damage than they are about the damage to people, the loss of human life. And the things we're seeing on the media are only a small subset of what's happening in the world. There is racism and violence happening to African Americans, to Asian Americans, to other people every day that are not being put into the news and the stream. So this is a fight that we may think is just one thing that's happening. It's not. It's happening every day across the world, not just this country, across the world. I have friends who've talked about stories of them being terrorized in London, in Detroit, Indians. It happens. It happens. And it's important for us to stand up and talk about that and fight about that and fight against it. Because if we don't, it's going to continue. If we don't put ourselves into this fight, if we don't take a stand, then we are complicit. If we don't take a stand, we're actually taking a stand. You're taking a stand on the side of racism if you don't take a stand against it. That's how it works. That's how it works. And if we think it doesn't affect us, we're wrong. What makes us any better? Right? It's a crazy thing right now that's happening. And it bothers me. It bothers me because this could happen to my niece. This could happen to anybody. We aren't special. We think that because it's not happening to us right now that we're safe, and we're not. And that's what I need you guys to understand. And the other reason that this is important is because hate is such a pervasive thing. And today is June 1st, and it is the first day of Pride Month. And as an ally, I have to support my LGBTQ brothers and sisters and everything that they're going through. And so, I want them to be proud of who they are, just as Black people should be proud of who they are. They should be able to live in peace and without fear of retribution or attack or violence. And so this is what it is. This is where it is. And don't think that Pride Month is awesome. It's a recognition, but it's 1 month. It has to happen every day. Black History Month is 1 month. Protection of Black African Americans has to happen every day. And so, this is the crazy part right now. And so, with all of these things coming together, it's an issue of identity. Who these people are, who your neighbor is up to them. So you shouldn't care who they are. As Christians, we love our neighbor regardless of who they are and how they define themselves. That's their business. Our business is to love them as they are, as they say they are, because they are enough the way they are. Okay? And so, it's a lot. It's a lot going on. And the thing about this is that sometimes it can be overwhelming. And so I also want to wrap this up, so to speak, by telling you guys, make sure you take care of your mental health. Okay, there's nothing wrong with turning off social media, walking away, taking a step back in order to protect yourselves. Seek help. Talk to someone. We just finished Mental Health Awareness Month in May, but it's an everyday thing, just like this fight. So you have to take care of yourself regardless of who you are and what you're seeing. Taking care of yourself doesn't mean you ignore the problem. Doesn't mean you're not aware of the problem. It means you're taking care of yourself so that you can continue to fight the problem. All right. And so that's what I had to say, because it's crazy right now, the way the world is. My heart is heavy for my fellow Black brothers and sisters. And, I probably have implicit biases that affect me and how I talk to people, probably. And I got to acknowledge that, right? I probably don't do enough. I have to acknowledge that. But I'm trying to do better. Each day we try to do better. And part of that is you have to not just talk the talk, you have to do something about it. You can't just say, hey, I'm against racism. To be against racism, you have to be anti-racist. To be anti-racist, you have to do something about it. To do something about it, you have to go out and vote. You have to go out and vote because that is a win against hatred, right? For all of you who, I still don't understand how you can call yourself, and damn me, fine, I don't care. We can talk about that. How you can vote for Trump and call yourself a Christian, right? If you see someone being victimized, if you see someone who's being bullied in any way, shape, or manner, how can you support that? How can you stand on that side? How can you value your business and the protections he gives you as a business over human life, over your neighbor and how they're treated? I don't understand it. And a lot of people, including my fellow Indians, including my fellow Malayalis, uncles, aunties, I don't understand it. I don't. There's no justification for it. We can talk about it. Explain it to me. Because if you think that he won't come after you as an immigrant, he will. How many times has he changed and turned on a dime to people he supported at one time? That's who you want in your back pocket? That's who you want to support? Don't do it. Don't do it. Take a stand. Take a stand and vote for what's right. Vote and help us get a better future for our children, for ourselves, for the next generation. And it's going to happen because you guys got to talk about it. And I'm not comfortable being in front of the camera. This is a challenge my girl Macy gave me to try and do lives once a week. And this just happened to be the topic. Because I think the topic of identity and hatred go together in the sense that there is no place for one with the other. In this day and age where we're fighting against Black oppression, where we're fighting against LGBTQ hatred and, the biases and the phobias that they're facing, right? All of them. We have to stand up. I have to stand up. Because if I am going to stand for people being enough, who they are, however they define it, then I have to stand up for it. And that's what I do. And listen, if you're struggling, reach out. Happy to talk to you. Because we have to be better. We have to be better. Educate your parents. Talk to your parents. Explain to them what's going on and why it's important that they think about what they're doing. Help them make the right choice in voting, right? Because that's the only way we're going to get better. Okay, so I'm not talking about the looting and all that, because that's a different story. Don't get focused on that when the true story is that people have lost their lives unnecessarily to hatred and to implicit biases and racism, right? I'm sure all those people, our police officers, were good Christians and were like, hey, I love my neighbor. I go to church on Sunday. It couldn't be me. It could be you. It could be you. So in this time when you're trying to do better, look it up. Do your research. Don't just say it and give lip service. Put your money where your mouth is. Do research. Right now, social media is busting with people who are sharing some great resources and tips. Look into it. I posted some on my stories. We have to do something about it. All right. So I love you guys. I wanted to talk about that because we need to promote love and not hate. We need to support our fellow man and neighbor. We need to fight bullies in all forms that they come in. And we can only do that when we take that first step and put our money where our mouth is. So I love you guys. Remember, Black Lives Matter and LGBTQIA lives matter. All right? Love is love. Bye.